Several years ago, I was living in Istanbul, Turkey. I was there for 2 years as a missionary. It was one of the most amazing times of my life. God was just, you wouldn't believe, well, maybe you would, some of you would, the miracles that God did, the awesome power, how He took care of not only myself, but the team when we were living there. It was just an absolutely powerful time. There was one particular event that happened that I wanted to share, where I had been invited by a friend of mine to go down to a certain part of Turkey in the south. He had been working with some musicians down there. He was working in a music studio, and he was a good friend of mine, and he invited me down there. So, I wanted to go. It was pretty exciting. I was maybe 18 back then. It was a while ago. And so I took the bus there. I took this all-night bus, and I arrived in this town, and my friend met me there at the bus station, and we went to this movie studio when he was there, where he was staying. And it was just, it was not what I expected. When we got there, the guy that he was working with, who was supposed to be a missionary, was actually just a complete, he was just being hypocritical. He was a hypocrite. And he said he was a missionary, he said he was a pastor, but he was just as worldly as anyone you could. There was sin, things I can't really go into, but there was just sin, and there was temptation, and it was just a really bad situation for this friend of mine. And so him and I were talking, and he recognized it, and we were both so young. It seemed like such a good opportunity at the time for him, because this guy working at the studio, he had some connections with some pretty well-known music labels, and this friend of mine is a very talented musician. And so it seemed like a good opportunity, but the situation that he was in was so bad. It was just so just not good for a Christian to be in, that whenever I was talking to him, the first evening we were there, we were talking, and eventually I just said to him, look, this just can't go on. As we were talking, it came to the realization. He came to the realization that he had to leave. It was just a bad situation. So while we were there talking, he made this decision. Okay, I'm going to leave the studio. I'm going to go back to Istanbul and just trust God that, if music is supposed to be where He wants me to take me, this will work out. And so he made the decision, and the next day in the afternoon, we were all nervous. I was nervous because I didn't have much experience yet. He had never really had to do anything like this. So while we were there, we waited for the rest of the day. We just hung out. It was a beautiful place, nice beaches, and it was the Mediterranean. It was just a beautiful place to be. So evening came. It started getting dark out, and he went and he decided, all right, this is a good time to go tell the guy. We worked up the courage, and so he went in there and he told this guy, this missionary supposedly, who all this stuff going on. He went in there and told him, I feel like I need to leave. This missionary friend of mine is here, and I feel like I need to leave. He explained the whole thing, and the guy got really mad. All right, got super upset about it. So he comes in, and he tells his friend of mine, I want him out of here right now. He's got to go. He said, he made up all this stuff. He was just venting. He was upset that he was going to lose his helper. And so he says, I want Alan out of here right now. He's not welcome in this place anymore. He's not welcome in the studio, not welcome in my house. And so he kicked me out. He got I had to pack up all my bags right away. And I got kicked out of the house. And this friend of mine, he said, all right, well, I'll walk you to the bus station. And I thought, well, this stinks. It was a very high, very emotional, very high tension situation. And so my friend wanted to get out of the house as well because it was just so stressful. And he said, I'll walk with you to the bus station. I'll make sure you get on the bus, and we'll go. I need to get out of here for a little bit. So we walked together and we talked. And we started getting to the bus station, and when we arrived, we realized, because we're not natives of Turkey, we didn't know all of the different holidays and things, and we didn't realize that particularly that day was a huge holiday in Turkey. And so what ended up happening was all of the buses were completely full. There was absolutely not one bus open. I couldn't get on one. There was just no space. We went to all the different terminals, and the guy just kept telling us that you can't get on. So I told my friend, well, you have to go back. You can't stay here with me. I'll go to the airport or something and find my way. So my friend went back home, or to the studio, and I got in a taxi, and I took a taxi to the airport. In the airport, I get there, and it was just completely packed. I mean, there was nothing open. I went up to the front desk, and the lady said, well, all we have open are standby tickets. You can't get on. There's just no way. All the flights are full. You can get a standby ticket, and if somebody doesn't show up, we'll let you get on the flight. So I said, okay. I gave him almost all the money I had. I think I had $30 left, roughly about $30 left to my name. And I went and I sat down, and I waited, and I waited and waited. It was about midnight whenever I finally got on a flight. The lady called, and she said, all right, Alan, Alan Crookham, you can come up, you can get on this flight. And I had just, the way that cell phones work in other countries beside the States is they have these cards. You pay by the minute, basically. You buy a $10 phone card, and if that money runs out, you got to buy a new card. And so that's what I only had a few cents left on my phone, which meant I only had a couple minutes. So I called my team leader, and I explained as quickly as I could, this is what happened. I need you to come pick me up at the airport. He said, I'll be there. And then we hung up the phone. And I said, okay, great, I'll see you. I hung up the phone, and I got on the plane and flew all the way to Istanbul. And when we arrived, I got off the plane, got my bags, and my leader was nowhere to be found. He had completely forgotten about me. Well, and he had fallen asleep, actually, was what ended up happening. And so I was there all by myself in Istanbul, and I didn't know what to do. I'm pretty bad with directions most of the time, so I didn't know where to go, and I had only a few dollars on me. Like I said, about 30. So I went out and I talked to the taxis, and I said, look, I knew my address, thankfully. I went and I told the taxis, because there's always taxis outside airports, and I said, look, I need to get to this particular place. Can you take me? And now, I didn't give him my exact address, because what happens in Turkey is, because of the predominant Muslim stuff, and because there's a lot of crime, most missionaries won't give out their actual address. They'll give out like a general area, have a taxi drop them off, and then they'll have then they'll walk. It depends on the part of the country you're in and the situation you're in. But in this particular case, I didn't give him my address. I gave him just the general area, and I said, hey, look, I need to get to this place. Can you take me? And the taxi driver said, well, it's going to cost about $60. And I said, oh, man, I've got 30. So I said, well, can you do me a favor? Can you take me there for 30? And they laughed at me. All the taxi drivers, they just laughed at me. So I said, I got upset. I don't get angry very easily, and I wasn't angry, but I was embarrassed, and they're all laughing at me. All these taxi drivers, hey, the rich American can't afford a taxi back home. So I said, all right. I gave him the $30, and I said, look, take me as far as you're willing, and from there I'll just find my way. And I had no more minutes on my phone. I could not call anyone. And so he said, okay, fine, laughed, we got in the taxi, and he started driving. And the whole time we're going, I was just praying. I was saying, God, please have mercy on this heathen, or mercy on me, and touch this heathen to help me and to take me all the way home. I was just begging God in the car, please, God, please. And we drove, and we crossed there's a bridge that goes across the European side of Turkey into the Asian side where I lived. We drove onto the Asian side of Turkey, crossed this big bridge, and when we get there, I'm thinking, maybe God will have mercy on me, and God, maybe he'll help me out. And the taxi driver got to the other side of the bridge and stopped and said, this is as far as we go. And I was shocked. I was thinking God would surely help me out here a little bit, touch it. I mean, surely God can change his heart or something. But he didn't. So I got out, and the whole time, I step out of the taxi, and I'm just slowly closing the door, hoping that he'll say, I'm just kidding, get on in, I'll take you home. But he didn't. I closed the door, and that evil guy just drove off without me, left me there. It was probably about 2 a.m. by then, in Istanbul. This tourist-looking American guy with a big backpack on, clear, easily stealable, easily attackable. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm going to die. I mean, there's no way I'm going to make it home. I had no idea. All I knew was that if I keep walking straight, eventually I will hopefully start to recognize something. I knew it was probably going to be hours walking, and I was just going to trust God to help me out. So I started walking. I mean, I had no other choice. I had no money, couldn't afford a taxi, had no phone minutes, couldn't call anyone. It's the middle of the night. There's no one to talk to. No one I can trust anyway to talk to. Except the creepy shadows in the alleys and stuff. And I'm not going to go back there. They offer you some weird tea, and then you wake up without your shoes. And so, anyway, I said, I'll walk. I was praying, asking God for mercy every step, hoping that I'll make it. And now this is the crazy part. So I'm walking, and as I'm walking down the road, I walked maybe 10 minutes. I kid you not, a white car pulled up and stopped beside me and rolled down the window, and there was a guy in a white suit sitting in that car. And he looked at me, and he said, where are you going? And I wasn't registered. I was exhausted. Didn't want to trust anyone. Didn't register what was going on. And I said, I'm going home. I didn't tell him where. I didn't tell him anything. So I'm going home. And he said, okay, well, you need a ride? And at that point, I was like, well, chances are probably better with this guy in his weird suit than having to walk the next who knows where. So I got up in the car with him, ignored the stranger danger, warnings. And I got in the car with him, and we started chatting in English, which is funny in itself that he spoke English. And we just started talking, just nothing interesting. I mean, it was just small talk. And we were driving, drive for a while. We're just talking and talking. And then he stopped in front of my house, my apartment, and he said, all right, well, we're here. I said, thank you so much, man. I got out, went up to my room, went all the way to my apartment, went to bed. Next morning, my leader is knocking on the door, said, oh, man, I'm sorry, I fell asleep, the whole thing. I understand, it's exhausting. So when I woke up the next morning and I started thinking about it, I realized the guy in the white suit and in the white car, I was so tired and I was so untrusting. I didn't trust this guy. I never told him where I lived. He took me straight to my front door of my apartment without me ever telling him how to get there. God sent his angels to help me out. I didn't even notice it until it was over.